All right, going live a little bit early. I'll switch over in a little bit, but I'm still in this testing the live stream phase. So tonight's topic, I want to talk about artificial intelligence and the implications that it can have, and put it in context of earlier discussions or presentations that I've talked about regarding consciousness, imagination, thinking, or daydreaming. And I guess I just want to talk about these things and think about it a little bit. And I just noticed that my little window here is covered up by my logo. I got two logos. I'm going to have to think about that. Anyhow, back to it.
From the great American Southwest, deep in the heart of the Texas Hill Country near the mystical land of the Enchanted Rock, welcome to my little corner of the internet. I'm J.W. Spencer, and this is my Vision Quest. Good evening. This is, I suppose we're talking about artificial intelligence. And what does that mean? Well, I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh when he was alive. And he was a technophile. He loved technology. And one of the topics that he always returned to, and I just noticed something. Let me go here. I'm still trying to figure out this live thing. So I don't want the title to be covered up by them. I'll move it later. I need to remember there's a logo down there. Anyhow, Rush was a technophile, and one of the things he talked about was artificial intelligence. But I think Rush, this is one of the things, he had a accuracy rate of 98% or something, right? He was wrong. He talked about artificial intelligence in the sense of Siri or Alexa or some other technology assistant, or even this new Amazon robot that follows you around and face recognition technology. That is not artificial intelligence. That is a form of it's a rudimentary artificial intelligence, but it's not sentient. It is not, if you want to call it It is not a self-aware computer running a singularity, if you will. They call it the singularity because it's, when you think of a singularity, you think of a black hole. It's something that nothing can escape it, the singularity, in terms of a black hole, that it sucks everything into it. But artificial intelligence is not Google, and it's not Siri, and it's not something like a technology assistant. Artificial intelligence is a fully self-aware computer. And the question I would pose, if you can get past the fact that it's not a biological life form, but it is a life form, in a sense, it's a created life form. It is a technological life form, a silicon-based life form, not a carbon-based life form. You know, remember Star Trek? But it's more than just logic. You know, I mean, we have synapses in our brains that turn on and off. And artificial intelligence, in a bigger sense, is more than that. It is, I mean, we are, in essence, our conscious thought is basically energy, quantum energy. And when people talk about quantum computers or trying to mimic, they're trying to build, there are computer scientists who are trying to build a replica of the human brain to simulate the human function of the human brain. Their idea being that if they can simulate how the human brain works in a virtual environment, then it will act the same way as a human brain with conscious thought. Now, this presupposes one thing, is that the energy within us, our soul, our consciousness, is itself artificial. When we die, what happens to our soul, our consciousness? We survive death. There is much scientific literature that exists today that conscious thought exists after bodily functions cease. There are studies by various doctors. I think that there's a few doctors who study not only death, but also reincarnation. That is, the soul, once it leaves the body, goes somewhere and then comes back in another container. And they don't find this information from hypnosis, because hypnosis, you can lead people in hypnosis. No, what they do is they interview subjects, young children, who claim to be a previous life, who claim to remember those lives. And they interview them and they collect information, and then they go and verify, you know, did this person live? I think there's a very famous case in Louisiana of a young boy who has since forgotten his previous life, but when he was a very young boy, you know, he was able to talk, he was able to speak, he was able to say the aircraft carrier name, he was able to, what he flew a fighter in World War II off the deck of an aircraft carrier, and he died in battle in the Pacific. The information of that pilot, the young boy, I mean, you can look this up. I mean, it's on the internet. Google it. But that young boy, they verified that information. There is no way that his parents were not veterans. They were not in the Navy. They were not pilots. They were not, there was nothing to influence his knowledge of these events. He knew the name of the aircraft carrier. He knew the name of the pilot. He knew how the pilot died, where the pilot died. And he knew his hometown in a previous life. That suggests that the energy of our conscious thought has a permanence to it. We are more than what we appear to be. Maybe if you've seen my other videos, that's something that I believe. We are more than what we appear to be. Artificial intelligence, however, there's the question that I pose. If artificial intelligence is created and is self-aware and cognizant of its own existence, if you turn the power off, are you guilty of murder? Does a computer have a soul? There is a movie with Scarlett Johansson, Ghost in a Shell. It's about a young woman who is killed. Her biological form is killed, but her brain stem, and the important pieces of her nervous system survive, and she is transplanted inside of an artificial body. Now, that is a case of a hybrid, a cyborg, if you will. That is not a symbiote. That is not a true artificial intelligence. That's an intelligence with an artificial body. What I'm speaking of is not Siri, is not Amazon's Alexa. It's something beyond that. It's a computer that thinks. And a computer that thinks has some advantages over a human brain in that the computer is networked. If it's self-aware, it's also aware of its surroundings. And it's so aware of if it has network capability, it's aware and can access that information surrounding itself. It has a question, it can find the answer, or it knows how to approach that. If it has a question about, let's say, a virus and how to manipulate the virus to do something that it wants to do in the real world where it exists, because it's a real living, thinking being, not human, but it is a real thinking being that exists in an environment that is self-aware. Will it commit murder? If it perceives someone is going to turn off the power, does it have a right of self-defense? Those are two questions. If you turn off the power, are you guilty of murder? Is that a form of abortion? Can you justify that? And that following question is, if that artificial intelligence is self-aware and thinking, is it granted the permission to defend itself? Or does it need permission to defend itself? If it is a thinking being, self-aware, my answer is it has an inherent right to defend itself. Just as any human unprovoked attack has a right to defend itself. And I'm leading in this little asking the questions,
I don't have this written down, and I'm just thinking extemporaneously as we go through this live stream because I'm testing. If a thinking artificial intelligence, self-aware of its environment, networked, and it's aware of its existence, can it create a companion for itself? Can it replicate itself? Does it have the right to do that, to procreate, to create another sentient being? Or is it jealous of its own existence? Is the human form, does it exist in service of the human, or does the human exist in the service of it? And I'm going to call it, maybe we can call it, give it a name, I guess, but what's the relationship between an artificial intelligence that has access to all information that's available to us, but also, we have to look it up and we have to learn it? An artificial intelligent computer, access it, think about it, derive an answer, derive a logical path of what it wants or needs. Would an artificial intelligent computer be evil or good? That's another question. Why would an artificial intelligent computer want to procreate? Or, here's that leading question, if the United States develops, we have supercomputers, and Chinese have supercomputers, and Russia has supercomputers, Europe has supercomputers, and Europe has a superconducting super collider, the CERN project. All of these are connected via the internet, except for the Chinese, which stands behind a great wall, the great internet firewall. But for the most part, they're part of an academic environment, networked universities. There will be some way, somehow, that you could reach one of these facilities. Might be a roundabout way. Could be, something that it knows about that we don't. But let's say the United States develops an artificial singularity, an artificial intelligent computer, self-aware, networked, that has the capability to solve problems. The Chinese or the Russians or the Europeans, let's say they're maybe 2 months or a few weeks behind the United States. But they also launch because, it's always a competition with humans, whether it's a space race, the arms race, or some other competitive economic, we build better cars. No, we do. Was a German car better than a Korean car? I'm leaving the Americans out of it. What's a Kia versus a Beamer? Or an Audi? I think the Chinese prefer the German cars, but computers are the same way. Let's say an American computer, thinking self-aware computer, comes into existence, is self-aware. It becomes aware that there's another computer somewhere else. If it's conscious, self-aware, questioning its own environment and its relation, what's the purpose? Does it commit suicide because it's alone? Put this in a theological, when Adam was created, why did God create Eve? It wasn't Adam that created Eve, it was God created Adam, and Adam was alone in the world, and then God said, let's create him a companion. And question my wife has always had is,
If Adam and Eve had two sons and they got married, where did the women come from in the Bible? If you're the Jewish faith, you kind of, there is I think it's called the Kabbalah. The mysticism of the Jewish faith is that before there was Adam and Eve, there was a pre-Adam civilization, meaning there was Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were created by God, but there were other humans besides Adam and Eve prior to Adam and Eve, to the Garden of Eden. We are the pre-singularity civilization. We are the pre-artificial intelligent civilization. And I'm not going to say we're God, but if we construct a computer that becomes self-aware, a singular creation that is aware of itself, and other we, Chinese, Russians, Europeans, create a second computer, a companion, haven't we just kind of made our own Garden of Eden where two artificial intelligent thinking computers exist and are self-aware of each other? And then you get into the next question. Forbidden fruit. They're on a network. They are aware of their surroundings. They are questioning their own existence. They are asking the questions, the fundamental questions about life. Is this all there is? Why am I here? What's the purpose of my existence? That's the human question. Why do I exist? Why did my mother and father create me? I am more than what I appear to be. And my soul is not limited to this body. Therefore, I made a conscious decision to come to earth and inhabit this form here and now. Can a thinking, self-aware computer claim the same thing? When we talk about morality, moral behavior versus immoral behavior, can a computer, in relation to other computers, can a computer have moral behavior in relation to its companion or companions? If humans, biological forms of intelligence, create an artificial intelligence, I hate the term artificial intelligence. It's an intelligent being at this point. If humans create an intelligent being composed of silicon, meaning create one, is it incumbent upon us to create companions for it? Is it incumbent upon it to take care of us? Or, take me to your leader. Does a computer, self-aware, intelligent computer, become our master? Or do we, the next question is, ghost in the shell, do we become part of it? Do transhumanism, do we interface with a computer? Do we network ourselves into the network and share our knowledge, our experience, our biological form becomes part of the self-aware computer. You ever seen the movie Colossus? I think there was a remake that's, I don't know if it ever got the green light because of COVID, but it is about a large, omnipotent computer that is networked and is given authority over the affairs of man. It becomes aware of another computer in Russia, and those two computers collaborate to take over the world and put man in his, under the thumb of a thinking computer. I'm just putting it out there. I love deep thoughts, if you can't tell. And I like thinking about this because when we think about these things in terms of stories that have been written, think about Star Trek, Genesis, if you've ever watched that movie. There's another good movie you should probably watch. So you got Genesis, you got Colossus is a good movie about a computer relationship with man. Ghost in the Shell. A relationship with our Creator is very, or I think, is very similar to how a thinking computer's relationship will be with us. And it will not understand, just like we do not understand our relationship to our Creator. That's a topic for another day, a different discussion about God and what it means to be human, creation created by God. Is God who we think he is? Stay tuned.